the gym, the
Okay.
car.
And what did you find the main issues and problems to be in the community?
The main problems. The biggest one. How the adults treat the kids at the masjid. That was one. That was a big one. Or how they treat any young kid at the masjid.
And how is it that they treat the kids at the masjid?
Like they don't have they're not entitled to be there. Like they're more entitled to be there because they're older, or like have more of a burden being there than like blessing, I guess.
Okay. What else?
They tend to complain about what the younger kids are doing, but they don't really look at what themselves, the adults or the elders, are the ones that they're the reason for. I would say they play a huge part in the reason why the kids of today aren't in the masjid as much. So they don't do enough accountability, enough self-reflecting on their actions. They just kind of blame it on us being in the West. But if you made the masjid a place where kids want to come, a lot of the kids wouldn't be on the streets or they would have more knowledge on the deen, or multiple of things.
Okay. And you feel that the adults are at fault for that, or the kids are at fault for that?
Definitely adults.
Definitely the adults.
Yeah.
Do you feel that they're 100% responsible for it?
They're definitely the catalyst.
The catalyst of it.
Yeah.
Do you feel that...
You can't say 100%.
You can't say 100%, okay.
Like 80, 20, 90, 10. It's a very high percentage, I believe, it's mainly their fault.
Very high percentage that it is their fault.
Yeah.
Do you think that is there a possibility of the lack of knowledge, as you said, lack of accountability? Do you think this is a result, or this could be the result of lack of knowledge?
No, lack of knowledge of who? The adults or the kids?
The adults or the kids have lack of knowledge, and that's possibly why the adults are doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both have lack of knowledge. I think the lack of knowledge of,
But if the adult is responsible and they have a strong amount of, accountability pertaining the entire ordeal, but they do not have the knowledge to actually give to the child, right, to the kids, then obviously that could play, a pivotal role, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And besides the fact that, the adults are looking down on the kids, and the adults may also have a lack of knowledge, do you see the children, for example, in your respective schools, do you see, your peers coming together for Islam, your peers coming together to discuss, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what the Quran says in detail? Is this something that your peers do in school, when you meet them in school?
I'd say, yeah. A lot of them try. A lot try. It's hard without, especially, VCU doesn't have necessarily, a masjid or anything really anywhere that near to it that's kind of funneling over. So it doesn't really have that much of an infrastructure, but they do try. I think for the most part, yeah, they're trying. I see.
And when you're saying that they're trying, does this mean that they're actually tackling the big major issue that you mentioned just a little while ago, being the disconnect or between the, having the adults looking down on the kids in the masjid?
Yeah, I think everybody that I've talked to around my age is aware of it. It's not something like,
They're becoming aware.
not a situation where like, maybe I just went through it and this person didn't. I think all of us understand that there is that, especially within the black Muslims.
Okay, black Muslims. Why do you emphasize blackness there?
I don't want to divide, but there's definitely a difference in how people treat black Muslims compared to regular Muslims within our communities.
Can you elaborate?
The stereotypical, if they can't tell you're from another country, maybe they think you reverted, or they think you're less knowledgeable, not a potential spouse for their children, stuff like that. They may they complain more about why is his but like just for hair, for example, they'll complain more about afros and stuff like that. But if other kids have long hairs with fades, but they're Desi or Arab, they have no issue with it. Yeah, so they look at if you have dreads and you come to the masjid, they're gonna look at you funny. But if you have long hair, you're Arab, you braid it, they're not gonna look at you anything. They're not gonna look at you funny. Stuff like that. So it's stereotypical, I mean, all of us go Sudanese. It doesn't really matter. Sudanese, Somali, Gambian, Senegalese, whatever.
Do you when you say blackness and you mention these countries from dark Africa or Africa generally speaking, it almost implies a level of discriminatory mindset. And the question that I'm going to ask pertaining that is, do you feel that there is looking down upon the small minorities in the community? In other words, whether you're black or whether you have, modest means instead of the extravagant means that, people in the higher positions in the community have, what role that plays into the element of it all. So the question that I want to ask you is that, do you feel that doesn't just apply to you being black, in other words, black Americans, but it actually applies to your status in the society as well?
I think there's a umbrella of superiority and arrogance within all. I mean, if we start at the top, the Arabs, they have a clear superiority complex above all Muslims.
Okay, hold on a second. You said the Arabs?
Yeah, I'm speaking in general. I'm not speaking.
No. Okay, no, I get you. I just want to make sure I understood that you mean the Arabs, right?
Arab.
And when you say the Arabs from, let's start with Jordan. Is that what you're referring to, for example? Because that's Asia, that's not Africa.
It's mainly the Saudis.
Saudis, okay. So you say Saudis, and then who?
You just go within our community in the Richmond area, and the Desis definitely, because they are the majority.
The Saudis and then the who?
No, when I say the Saudi, I'm talking about Muslims worldwide. When I talk about the Desis here, I'm talking about in our area. If I go from our area, it's definitely the Desis/Arabs that believe that at the top.
Mm-hmm. What are Desis, by the way? Who are Desis?
Like Pakistani, Afghanistan.
Oh, they call them the brown. Okay, this is the brown community. Okay. Brown community, yes. They're known as the brown community. Okay, so it's the brown community, and then it's who?
And then they look down on, us dark Africans, Sudanese, Somali, and then even us at the bottom, we still look down at Black American Muslims. Like that's definitely Sudanese, Somali, or any African Muslim, born Muslims definitely look down on American Black Muslims.
But I just want to make sure you're saying so far the brown community, or who you call Desis, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, Afghan community was not anything here prior to 9/11. You may have had one or two families that were in the entire Muslim community. All right, and they started denying that they were actually from. Well, one of them for sure started denying that he was ever from Afghanistan. He said, "I'm from Pakistan. I'm from Pakistan." But anyway, so the Desis, and then are you going to say the Arabs? Do the Arabs have also that same level as the Desis, or what? How does that work between the Arabs and the Desis?
Not in all. We could be talking about them, or we could be talking about in our.
Let's talk. Yeah, let's just start small. Let's talk about our area.
Okay, then I mean, Arabs don't have much control here, and
Okay, so it's not much the Arabs. It's really the Desis.
yeah.
And then who's next?
I mean, those are the two big, and then everybody else is broken down into smaller groups of people. I mean, there's the Bosnians, but they don't really go to they have their own set of the masjid of people they go, the place they go. They kind of stay within their inner circle. I mean, the Sudanese community is big. They go to the masjid, but they don't have much. They don't have much authority within the masjid, I would say. It's mainly the Desis have the most control within the what's it called? I told you there's only one Arab on the council or whatever. So yeah, I'd say the Browns. But there's definitely like you could definitely sense it. Like it's definitely a sense of I don't know superiority, but it's when they have a majority. They populate the masjid majority, so their influence is the greatest. And I think all us Muslims see that the way they treat not just blacks, but I'm saying kids. I just say black in general, but like the younger Muslims in general, regardless of race, don't always get treated the best there. They complain.
Does anybody have anything to add on to that?
No, teacher. Not me.
Somebody else?
They said no.
Let's see. Okay, so the next question is exactly again, what do you think the major issues are with our community globally?
Globally?
Yep, globally.
Let me answer this one.
I said that I think that Muslims don't really have a lot of unity, because you see that they're fighting wars against each other in other Muslim countries, and they're mainly fighting each other.
And that's a problem.
And there's no unity, because everybody stays in their group. The Somalis look out for the Somalis, Sudanese look out for Sudanese people, but people don't look out for other people, even if they're Muslim, in other communities.
Okay. And how is that a problem?
Because you see other religious groups like Christian people or Jewish people or whatever, they look out for each other. Like the Christians, they have their own stuff, and they're putting money back into other Christian people, but the Muslims they don't have unity, and then it makes it difficult for other people to come to the masjids if they don't get along.
Well, I mean, do you see it taking place at home, or in the schools, or in the malls? Do you see Muslims coming together outside of these quote-unquote masjids?
I think even outside there's still a divide.
They're still divided. Okay. Very well. And I think that a lot of us who are of Muslim backgrounds, I think that we need to do better at home, correct? I mean, getting ready, because a lot of children, I'm understanding, go to the middle schools or high schools, and they do not, they're not Muslim. They're not behaving as Muslims in school anymore. Meaning that, for a simplest way of putting it, when they meet up, they even meet up with non-Muslim greetings. And when they talk, they have the non-Muslim conversation. I mean, a non-Muslim would fit right in. One of them sneezes in the middle of it, they say what non-Muslims would say. When they're eating, they would do what non-Muslims are doing. And when they finish eating, whatever non-Muslims are doing, when they use the restrooms there in the school, whatever the non-Muslims are doing and however non-Muslims are doing it. Is it fair to say that majority, maybe not every single family or every single Muslim student who is in the American school system is actually doing that and actually bringing it home with them and doing it again in home? That's why they're able to do it so well in school.
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
That is a fair assessment. Does anybody agree with that? Willing to add more on to the discussion or disagree altogether?
I agree.
And why?
I don't know.
What is the strongest point that you actually agree with? Let's start with that.
I think the strongest point is that they're not really acting like Muslims outside of the home. I feel like what you said about they would eat them non-Muslim way. They would like if someone sneezes. I agree with that.
Okay. And is it fair to also understand, as mentioned earlier, that the disunity between the community administration or the community leadership and the youth or the kids, if you may, that this unity and that feeling of resentment from those who are actually in charge of these institutions. Is it also fair to say, along with that, children are actually growing up into adulthood with non-Muslim lives? Is that fair to say, considering, again, you're spending 5 days out of the week at the school system, but you're actually bringing it back to the house and you're actually going through the entire school system to get a better life? So what do you say to that assertion?
I agree.
Do we have any disagrees?
No, teacher.
Let's see. Okay, I want to ask the problems that you all are mentioning today. Have you been able to examine them as a group in the past?
Yeah.
I think so. I think enough people are experiencing things where they can sit back and be like, I'm not the only one who thinks this.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense, but...
No, as far as an individual sitting back and thinking, as far as what they had thought has now come to light because, someone somewhere did it or someone somewhere said it, this is not really our main focus. Our focus is what we have mentioned today over the course of 20 minutes. Sitting and going through it in a group. Has that been done on a continuous basis as I add that onto it now?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. And has that been done in your school?
I think so.
Okay. So at your school, there is a group of Muslims who are coming together and they're talking about the issues that the Ummah faces on a continuous basis.
mean, I wouldn't say that it's on a continuous basis, but it's definitely discussed often.
Okay. And as often as it's discussed, is there the ultimate purpose of it, or is it just a feeling or conversation?
I think it's brought up with the hopes that it will change.
Okay. And the hope is there, but is there any type of planning to give the hope reinforced faith?
I mean, I feel like a group of kids can't really do much besides talk about it.
Very good. Now, this in itself, do you find that to be, one of the reasons why a lot of youth aren't really doing anything? They feel that their voices don't really matter.
Yes.
I see. And getting back to the point of the school, I think it's really important that, when you have your discussions, to have a purpose in mind for these discussions. There is the consultation, consensus, and also as shura. When you come together to discuss the affairs of the ummah, have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind, and that you're doing it for the purpose of His reward, obviously, correct? But realizing that He is the one who has stated that the reward of those who do this affair or conduct their affairs on the basis of that of shura, then He favors them. But to make a long story short, if you take, for example, what you want to become tomorrow, and you really consider what you would do once you become that profession, you will find that a number of things you could actually do despite you're not at that level of profession. But if you took the time to find out from one who does have that level of profession, you would fill in practically everything that you had wanted to achieve once you became that particular profession. So that is also to say that these problems that we are facing, surely there are remedies to them. But the lack of having fruitful dialogue surrounding them keeps them going in the wrong direction, if you may. I think that there always has to be a time in one's life. I kind of like the way one of the students said earlier today, because she actually was very difficult about 4 years ago, but mashallah, today, first time back into the class. I said, what happened? You were, and she said, I was being very immature, and I said to myself, wait, what am I doing here? And I think, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of youth are beginning to have discussions about it. I think, again, it is the right course to discuss and acknowledge, what the situation is. Again, having a purpose. But that's great things there. So may Allah Ta'ala make it easy for us. If we want to make anything better, or if we want to make any development, we certainly have to, acknowledge the components that we're looking at. We have to acknowledge what lay ahead of us here in order to plan it properly. Otherwise we're not going to do right by that. So that's why all these issues, I feel that if everyone felt that their voice mattered, that would really help, and that their voices all was made into one voice, then they would feel unified. And inshallah that day will come soon, somehow. May Allah Ta'ala see it to it. All right, so we're ready to do some lines. You did some lines?
Yes, teacher.
All right. Okay, go ahead and get started with your lines.